Hi, and welcome back to Ronnie the Reader. Today we are going to be going over a fairly new controversy that's been going down over the last couple of months, and that is, of course, going to be covering Audra Winters and the drama surrounding her book that she's released, The Age of Scorpius, which is supposed to be part of this series, and is set in this world that this author has spent a lot of time creating. So today we're going to be going over a little bit of the backstory of some of this drama and then what's been going down over the last month to month and a half or so since the book has been released and why people are claiming this is potentially a scam, saying that this person is like maybe a little bit of a grifter, and just ultimately not taking responsibility like a lot of people who are called out for bad behavior do. So let's go ahead and get into Audra Winters and the Age of Scorpius BookTok drama. All right, so I want to start with a little bit of a background on Audra and kind of how we got to the spot where the book was actually published in June of 2025. So Audra is currently 22 when all of this is going down. They have been making TikTok videos for a while. They started making TikTok videos in their teenage years, like prior to COVID and everything. Their initial success was not seen until 2021. They started really blowing up on TikTok with some of their like author / writing advices. And basically she was talking a lot about how she had been working on this world and this like fantasy book since she was 12. And at that point she would have been like 17 or so. Like probably about there, 16, 17. In 2021 via TikTok, she is kind of sharing what this world is about, kind of the basic premise, all of that. And she starts to gain a lot of hype. She was getting a lot of views, and just the TikTok algorithm back then really was loving what she was doing. She then announces, I think it was November of 2021, I think it's late 2021 sometime, that she actually signed with a literary agent and she was going to be working on this book. Now, during this time, she does not post any book content, writing content, anything like that. I think she did post one video in some of the videos that I've watched about this drama that was nothing to do with like books. I think it was in 2023 sometime. So then she comes back in 2024. And basically when she returns, she says that her literary agent dropped her. This is the first piece of the story that we have to kind of stop down for a second and put a little bit of a pin in, because this piece of the story doesn't seem to stay consistent with Audra and kind of her reasoning for things. And so we will come back to it, take a look at it. But essentially when she comes back in 2024, she says that she was revising this book for the last 3 years. Her and her editor were working on it over and over and over again. And basically when the book was done, when it was finished, that she was dropped. And so now she's coming to TikTok and she is looking to go the self-publishing route. And so her return is basically promoting this like Kickstarter. These initial videos that she was kind of posting when she was returning, kind of promoting this Kickstarter and promoting the self-publishing route that she was looking to go down really weren't doing the numbers that she was doing prior to her leaving the platform. So those numbers that she was hitting in 2021 just were not being obtained yet again. She had kind of lost a lot of momentum in her posting. And there is a big difference in the 3 years between 2021 and 2024 when she's returned as far as what the algorithm gods want and kind of what is promoted, social media trends and all of that. Like they just change so quickly. And so she kind of pivoted, and I don't know personally if this attitude shift we're about to see is something that she did purposefully or if it's something that she kind of fell into or what. But essentially, we start to see her coming on crying a lot, basically, and kind of doing a little bit of the, oh, woe is me, kind of pity me, give me sympathy, feel bad for me, feel sorry for me situation. I know people have had a little bit of an issue with how she has chosen or did choose to go down that route of the marketing of the book. I wouldn't even really call it marketing. And that's kind of a larger conversation about this book. It's like the marketing and PR of it all. But basically she was trying to promote it via feel bad for me and that I've worked on this book for 10 years and it's my life and it's the only thing I have to live for, which we will definitely come back to. That is something else to put a little bit of a pin in. The book really doesn't start to pick up momentum, or at least Audra doesn't really start to pick up momentum again until she decides to start selling this book via the TikTok shop. Now, I believe it was a pre-order on the TikTok shop that she has set up. So essentially people could pre-order this book, and when it was released, it would be shipped to them. And I think now, after a lot of things have happened and pre-orders are yet again being brought into the scenario, which we'll talk about at the end, I think people are a little bit more calling her out on this, because with TikTok, I guess you have 60 days to fill that order request via the TikTok shop. And so she's sending out like these packages to fulfill the order, but then the actual book is not being released until later on. I really don't know too much of that part of it, because I just didn't spend a lot of time researching that part, so I apologize. She makes quickly a lot of money from doing this TikTok shop pre-order, and we then see an abrupt change in her content, basically going from crying every day, woe is me, pity me, blah blah blah, to now I'm a 6-figure businesswoman entrepreneur with a team of 15 to 20 employees, which modern day seems now to be between 6 and 8 employees. And I was watching Meredith Navarco's video, who I absolutely loved that video, and I really like Meredith's videos in general. I think they're really well done, and I think that Meredith herself is really funny while also providing really good analysis. And I used to live in Arizona, where she lives in Scottsdale, although I didn't live in Scottsdale. I lived in Chandler. Regardless, Arizona buddy. But basically I think it was in her second video on the topic, but she said, there's anywhere between 6 to 8 employees, and how do you not know how many employees you're hiring or you're putting to work? Which is such a valid point, and something that Meredith discussed a lot, and I've seen discussed elsewhere, is are these employees contractors versus full employees versus hourly employees? Honestly, when I first heard Audra say employees, I assumed that she was talking about people that she had just hired as contractors, but that she was continuously working with, that were her employees, or her creative team, as it's now kind of being spun. So I really don't know either. So I'm with you, Meredith girl, on how the heck do you not know who your employees are? And are they salary? Are they hourly? Are they contracts? Who knows? Basically, she is now running a team, and it just kind of, the shift in the content is staggering. It's really crazy. The shift in the attitude, and kind of just the elitism and the entitlement. And I guess we can kind of get into a little bit now of the actual release of the book, and the main heart of the drama, because a lot of what I want to talk about specifically, I know this has been a lot of preamble, is her attitude specifically. So let's go into the main parts of what happened. So finally in June, the book does come out, and pretty much immediately, although Audra would have you feel differently, the book gets really bad reviews. Now, I have to say, I have not read a single part of this book. I've not cracked the book open. I have not seen any of the contents inside. So I fully am saying anything about the book just from an outsider's perspective of what other people are saying. A lot of people have said that the book seemed rushed, unfinished, unedited, that it was a colossal mess. There was so many formatting mistakes, typos, grammatical errors, just nonsensical, just kind of brain thought of words and went on a page and then never were touched again, which I think something I didn't talk about before, that Audra kind of talked about her writing process. She basically doesn't do revisions or edits in a normal sense. She essentially will write the book from start to finish, and then her revision is writing the book again, which is not a revision. I've never written a book. I might, like many readers and creative people, have ideas for books or TV shows or things like that. I just kind of get them, and then I actually do start outlines and stuff of those things. I have a Google Drive where I just basically go and I put my thoughts and ideas down on a Word document, and sometimes I will work on them for a couple of days, really fleshing out this world, and that's really as far as I take it. But even with those ideas. Like, I will come back to those when I have thought of like a new idea or a revision I would like to make. And then I do edit my document. I don't start a new document and just rewrite it again. Like, that's crazy. Like, you have to revisit those initial words you put down to just see if you even still agree with them. Not let alone do they actually make sense. Like, and she just didn't do that. I don't think she's done that. She claims, as part of this drama, she claims that she had editors, proofreaders, beta readers. Girl, no, you didn't. You're lying. Because the parts of the book that I have seen from people reading it, from leaving excerpts, from screenshots, you're lying. I'm gonna flat out say you're lying, in my opinion, I guess. Let me protect myself legally. Not for legal purposes, I believe Audra Winters is lying when she says that she had editors go through this book. Although Meredith, once again, bringing up a point that I didn't even think about. I guess I just think the worst in people is that maybe she truly did have editors, proofreaders, beta readers work on this. Did she actually take any advice or actually listen to any feedback that was given to her? Probably not. While I don't believe that she had anyone look this over, and the reason I believe that, kind of a side tangent, is something that we kind of didn't get into as a specific example, but something that will be covered when we kind of talk about the attitude and entitlement, is that she posted this TikTok video, 10,000 hours of mastery, which is essentially like a theory that says, and if you do something for 10,000 hours, you're then like a master in it. And so she did this whole smug video about how she broke down how she's written for like at least 3 to 4 hours every single day for the last 10 years. That's great. That's wonderful. But if you're never going back and listening to any feedback you're given, or you're never going back and actually looking at what you did actually write and changing it and revising it and editing it and learning from it and why it didn't work, you're not going to be a master. Because if you're just writing every single day, you're just getting better at your typing speed, I presume, not that you're actually better at writing anything at all. And that is my big issue with Audra. The book, like I said, has gotten terrible reviews. Before I want to get into her response and her wild statements that she made, the book oscillated anywhere between like a 1.3 and a 2.3 review star rating sitting on Goodreads. I think Goodreads did delete a couple of reviews. I think when I did look, it was at like a 1.8. But basically the book comes out, it gets these terrible reviews, and then Audra comes online and says, this is all happening because one person posted a terrible negative TikTok review and then everyone just followed suit, which is like not true. One, someone did post a video, and a fellow author, indie author, posted a video basically saying that this book was like a cautionary tale as to like, you can be so passionate and love something so much, but like maybe it's not exactly what should be out in the world, and maybe take a little bit of time and do a little bit of reflection. And that's the thing with Audra, because she's been working on this world and this book for 10 years, she can't step back from it. She's too engrossed in it. She's too involved in it. It's something that she just can't let go of. And as she quickly demonstrates, she intertwines this book and her life, and she states multiple times that this book is the only thing she has to live for. It's the only reason she keeps going, and all of this stuff. And I just think that is wildly unfair to say, because while people love what they do, I'm sure, in the creative fields, and if you do create something like that, like, you can feel as though it's an extension of you and it is your baby, and it does hurt when people say rude or negative things about it. I'm sure that's terrible. You also have to remember that art, in all forms of art, including writing, is subjective, and not everyone is going to like what you put out. And if something is objectively not done well as far as a craft, like her writing was not done well. The sentences were run on. There was repeat sentences. There were multiple examples of this book, once again, that I've just seen people post. I haven't read the book myself. There were multiple examples of inconsistencies or contradictions that she made in this book that just shouldn't be there if you objectively were writing well, or even had someone go over your draft and tell you, hey, these two things are different. You might want to kind of pick one reason and then stick with that one and edit the other one. Like, she just clearly never did that. Attitude that she has of like framing this book as like my life, and if you don't like it, like you're threatening my life essentially, is so wrong. And also the fact that she's blaming this like kind of negativity TikTok spiral on one person is just so just delusional, in my opinion. She acts like because she worked on this book for 10 years and she put so much of her effort and time in it, and that she made so much money off of the pre-orders of it, that somehow it is inherently meant to be well received, which is like not true. So many people are excited for so many things, and then when it actually comes, they're disappointed by it. And I think a lot of that, in most cases, has a lot to do with people putting their own expectations on someone or something when they're creating or crafting something. But in this case, I think people just genuinely were like, this girl seems really sincere. You know, she had a rough go of it. She's so young and she's doing this really impressive thing, like writing a book. And I will say she did self-publish a prior book when she was like 14 or 15 that she did like unpublish at one point. So this isn't like her first like book that she's like finished or written, although I've heard reports that that book that she did self-publish was essentially just another version or draft of this book, because there's been like 10 drafts, 10 revisions, blah blah blah, something that she just kind of keeps repeating. Just because you do it over and over again, and because you put so much effort into it, doesn't mean that it's good or that people are going to like it just for the sake of you doing all of that. It still has to be written and crafted well. And girl, you have to take that into account. And so she posted these kind of response videos, basically first claiming that the ebook was formatted wrong, and then she goes into, well, I've heard some of your criticisms and your feedback, and we're going to be revising the book and re-putting it out. So she now has another pre-order link up for the second revision or second version of this book to come out, which, like, girl, if it was just formatting errors, like, why can't you just literally flip those and then re-put it out? Why are you going through a whole revision period? Where she's posted another video where she basically goes through this like 8-step, that I'm not going to bore you with the stupid details of, but this 8-step revision process that she hopes to have done by March. Like, if you're having all of these steps, all of these things, like what is even the point, I guess? Like, she just wants it to be liked so bad. And even, let's say, it's the most bestest thing ever, like, that comes out whenever she finally releases this new version or the second edition of the book or whatever the heck she's calling it. People are still going to be like, well, the first one sucked, and then you did this one, and you had a whole team working with you. This is where the 6 to 8 people have now come in versus the prior 15 to 20 that she talked about. So, you know, where do you start, or like, where does your process for this book start, and then the like editing part end, and like what ideas are actually yours? And that's something else about the whole new editing process for this book, is that, let's say she did have editors, baiters, and proofreaders before, who's to say that she just doesn't do the same thing when they give her examples or criticisms or issues that the book has? How is she going to actually implement that if she didn't before? I think she probably had a lot of issues with her literary agent and the editor she was working with over those 3 years back between 2021 and 2024. One of the many things she's being criticized about as far as like contradictions and things is the editor story. As I mentioned before, she claims that she was dropped. Then she claims that she left of her own free will. Then she claims that she was dropped because this editor was no longer taking on sci-fi fantasy authors, or the agent, excuse me. And so, like, what is the truth? She's kind of gone back and forth between being dropped and leaving. And let's not forget, she initially came back with this whole, like, pity me, woe is me story on TikTok with my agent dropped me right as I was done revising my book that we were working on for 3 years. So, I don't know. I kind of see a world where, and this is just my personal opinion, or both are slightly true. I think over those 3 years, Audra was working with this editor on this book, and they were giving her feedback and critiques and things to change about it. Because that's also something she said, that when she walked away, she wanted full control of the world, specifically the world. And I think people were giving her critiques and feedbacks of things to change about the world to make it maybe a little bit easier to digest, or kind of pull back some of the lore, especially if this is supposed to be a series. You know, you can do drops later on as the book goes on. My battery died in the middle of that clip, so I don't remember exactly what I was saying, or kind of where it cut off. But essentially, I think she left this editor because he was giving her, or she, whoever it was giving her all this feedback, and she didn't want to take it. And so they were like, well, if you're not going to be listening to us and taking our feedback into consideration, we no longer can work with you. And she was like, okay, that's fine. And then left. And I think when she came back, she was like, well, they didn't want to hear me out, didn't want to do what I wanted to do. And so they dropped me because they told me to leave or else, essentially. And so that's kind of the story I'm choosing to believe is happening. But now, just in general, as far as like wrapping everything up, I think it is wildly inappropriate for her to be wrapping the identity of herself in this book together, and essentially saying that if you don't like the book, then she doesn't have a will to live, because that is not something that you should be putting on other people at all. And also, I think she just can't handle it. She's only 22. She's so young. And I understand wanting to do something that you love, and you feel like you love it, but it just not be something that is necessarily for you. And so that's kind of where I want to leave today's video off. I definitely will be still following this, and if there does come things in the future, I think whenever we finally get this next version of the book, I may make a part 2 to this video, kind of a follow-up. But right now, I just think that she needs to take some time and to really sit with why people are being annoyed with her and kind of losing patience with her. And it's the fact that, girl, just sit down and edit the book and kind of stop making excuses as to why all of these things have happened to you and to this book. And yeah, I think she seems like a sweet girl, just someone who's probably a little in over her head, someone who I think has a little bit of a superiority complex, if I'm being honest. And it's just sad to see. But yeah, so that's it for today's video on Audra Winters and BookTok and all of that sort of stuff. So definitely let me know what you have thought of this drama, and what your opinions on Audra or the book are. Have you read the book? Attempted to read the book? Please let me know. I would love to know. But yeah, that's it for today. So thank you so much, and I will talk to you very soon. Bye.